Where we want to move right now is to Daniel in the Deacon's Den. It's Deacon Dan Brahier. Good morning, Deacon Dan.
Hey there.
Good morning, Dave. Good morning, Ron. How are you today?
We're
Great.
doing great. Now, I know this for a fact that some Wednesdays you step up to the plate and you say, man, I got a lot of cleaning up to do on this one. And but nothing like today. Like this one is the biggest. Like this has got to be the most challenging day ever to be the cleanup batter.
Yeah, it is no coincidence that you are here with us, Deacon Dan.
Good morning, sir.
I'll do the best that I can. And you're right, it is no coincidence. I actually had these reflections this week about coincidences. So here, I want to just share with you a few examples of just things that will kind of make you wonder. Sunday was the Feast of the Pentecost, of course. It was the end of the Easter season. And I'm sitting in my office, and I have a little prayer table with a candle and so forth, and it's all decorated for the Easter season. And I'm praying evening prayer. And I get to the end of evening prayer, and those who pray the Liturgy of the Hours know that in the breviary, the prayer book, at the end of evening prayer on the Pentecost, it says the Easter season concludes at the end of evening prayer. Mm. And so I'm getting down to the closing prayer. I have a white candle, it's in one of those candles that's in like a jar that I've been using throughout the Easter season. I get to the middle of the closing prayer, and I glance down and I see that line, the Easter season comes to an end. I kid you not, my candle went out.
Oh, my goodness.
It got to the end of the candle. I mean, I'd been burning it the whole Easter season, so it was getting close. It went out, and a little smoke came up the top as I'm doing the closing prayer.
Wow.
And you talk about, just sent a chill through me, like, oh my gosh, Easter season just came to a close, and the candle went out. So then the very next day, here we are on Monday, and we're celebrating the relatively new memorial of Mary, the Mother of the Church. Mm. And I have been rereading Thomas Merton's book called New Seeds of Contemplation, which actually was the first Merton book I ever read years ago. And I went back and decided I wanted to reread that book. I started reading it during retreat. And the book is made up of 39 short chapters. You can read a chapter basically each day and meditate on it. Mm. And I flip open my book on Monday to read my chapter, and the chapter is called The Woman Clothed with the Sun. It's a chapter all about Mary. Mm. There are 39 chapters in the book. One of them focuses on Mary, the Mother of the Church, and that was the chapter on her Memorial Day. And so I don't know, have you ever had that experience where you're sitting there thinking about somebody and the phone rings and that person calls you?
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's a very common experience that we have, those kinds of things that happen. When we were kids, we used to call those Rod Serling moments. We're entering the twilight zone.
Right. Our generation.
It really got me thinking. Yeah, it's a generational thing for sure. But it just kind of makes me ponder this idea: if really is there such thing as a coincidence? We hear that all the time. We hear that word, and if we truly believe that God's in charge, we got to wonder really if anything happens randomly. This was several years ago. Our family had taken a trip to Ireland. And my son John and I were hiking, and I share this story actually each year with our OCIA group. We were hiking the holy mountain of Saint Nicholas. No. Anyway, we're hiking the holy mountain, and as we're hiking the mountain, we get near it's been a whole day hike. We're getting near the summit, and we meet this guy, this Father Stephen. He's a priest, and he starts talking to us, and he says, "Hey, I'm a newly ordained priest. I'll give you a blessing," which we are grateful for. And I told him I was a deacon. We had a great conversation. He's one of these guys, you ever meet somebody you feel like you've known that person your whole life.
Yeah.
And so we have this really nice conversation with one another. St. Patrick, by the way. I don't know why I said St. Nicholas, but it's Mount St. Patrick. And so we're having this conversation with one another. And we leave, we hike the rest of the mountain, we go back down. 2 days later, our family we're on the west side of Ireland, and we're in a restaurant, and we realize that there's a Catholic church in town. They have a 7 o'clock Mass on a Friday night, which churches have a Friday night 7 o'clock unless you're in Ireland. And so we decided, hey, we're going to go to Mass. So we go down to Mass, we walk in. Who is the celebrant of the Mass? Father Stephen.
Oh, my
Can you believe it?
Wow.
Now, Father Stephen is from Canada. He's there on a vacation and happened to be hiking on St. Patrick's Mountain the same day we did. And he just happened to be in this same town and asked the priest if he could come celebrate, and there he was. Now, of all the places we could have been in Ireland, at 7 o'clock on a Friday night in this little town in the middle of nowhere, there he is. We go to the sacristy, we have a conversation. Bottom line is, Father Stephen and I have become very, very good friends, though we've never seen each other in person again. Wow. We actually FaceTime several times a year to talk about our ministries, books we're reading, and so forth, and we're looking forward to seeing each other in person again. But the bottom line is, did I just randomly run into Father Stephen at the top of that mountain? Did I just happen to coincidentally run into him in a church Friday night 2 days later in a random town? These things don't happen by chance. That's the bottom line. God wanted to put him in my life for a particular reason. And he does these things all the time. I'm on retreat at Gethsemane Abbey last month, and I happened to be in the library, and I saw a book of homilies by St. Bernard from the 12th century. And I opened up the book, and I found 3 Pentecost homilies that he preached 900 years ago. And I started reading them, and it just gave me fuel because I was going to be preaching for Pentecost at St. Tom's last weekend, and it gave me something to base my entire homily and build it around. And so, this became the cornerstone of my preaching. Did I randomly just pull that book off the shelf? So I think, bottom line is that I think that I try to do this like when I do spiritual direction for our students and our year-round parishioners at our parish. I'm always trying to get them to focus on how God is working in their lives all the time. But unless we're really tuned in and paying attention, we miss it. So God is putting things in our hands. The Spirit is at work all the time. And I looked up the definition of the word coincidence. Coincidence is the concurrence of events that seem to have no cause for them happening. Yeah. But there is a cause. Right. It's not an accident. It's not random. God is allowing this to happen. He's putting this in our lives. And so that's what I would do this morning. I would encourage our listeners to think of those times in your life when just the right thing happened at just the right time. The phone rang, the conversation happened, somebody said something, and just step back a minute and ask yourself, where is God in that? And what message was he trying to send me by allowing that to happen? Because, and I think we need to just stop being surprised and keep going, oh, wow, that's really weird that happened. It's not weird, it's God, right? These things are happening for a reason. And so I don't think there are such things as coincidences at all.
Well, plus, when you think about, somebody puts someone in your life at that moment, he's also put you in their life for that moment, too. It works both ways.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because the thing you're saying to them could very well be the answer to their prayer. And they say that God rarely speaks to us directly. He doesn't necessarily pop into my room every night, but he does speak to us through the events and other people in our lives. So we got to be listening for that.
I love it. And then acknowledge it. Acknowledge God's gift to us through these things that happen throughout our day. I think that's the difference. Whether we acknowledge it or we don't acknowledge it, give God thanks. Thanks, Deacon Dan.